Hello everyone, how you doing this morning? It's good to see you, it's good to be with you. So this last week, Liz and I, we thought in order to fight the social distancing blues, do you know what I'm talking about? We decided to take our family on a little short adventure. And so, but listen, short or not, this outing is one that I would most definitely recommend to anyone who is searching for that day adventure here in the Wiregrass area. So if you're ready for that, grab a pen, grab a paper, and jot this name down. Are you ready? Here it is. Ed Lisenby Lake. If I'm not mistaken, it was also known as, may still be, the Dale County Lake. Great place. Listen, this is a 92-acre lake, and this lake has it all. You hear me? Listen, if bird watching and picnicking and things like that, if that's your thing, this place has it. If your love is fishing, you like to fish, listen, they don't just have great fishing, they even have a tackle shop or a bait shop. If kayaking's your thing, you like kayaking? Check, they got it. If mountain biking is your thing and you like that rush of the mountain bike, listen, check that too, because they got that too. Listen, if archery is your thing, believe it or not, they have it. They have it right there. So bravo to the city of Ozark, Alabama, because this place right here is just jam up. You hear me? This place, they have done something very special here for all people who love adventure and who just they love being outdoors. This is the place. And even something for my family, because our family, we love to hike, and we love to just walk and explore forests. We love that type of thing, and this part does not fall short in those areas at all. Listen, Liz and I have been blessed over the years to really get to walk some great forest trails, to get to hike some, the North Carolina mountains, Tennessee mountains. We've even had the opportunity to go down into the southern part of Central Florida where the marshlands start and hike some of those trails out there through the marsh. And let me tell you, when it comes to short trails, this trail does not fall short at all. This is a great short trail. So let me tell you about this a little bit. When you're walking this trail, it wraps this 92-acre lake, wraps right around it. And what that makes for is about a 3-mile stroll. And so expect to walk 3 miles if you're going to go all the way around the lake. But you're going to be walking through some extremely, very enjoyable hardwoods, all while enjoying the view of the lake on your right hand side as you're walking through there. It is top notch. So be prepared to walk that 3 miles. But here's the cool thing about it. You're going to be walking that 3 miles predominantly, not completely, but predominantly on a paved trail. And several very well-kept boardwalks, and those boardwalks, they pass over some of the grassy marsh portions that corner this beautiful 92-acre lake. And occasionally, if you grow tired, you need to stop, and take a sip of your bottle of water or whatnot, occasionally you're going to find these several wooden benches to rest on along the path. You can just sit there and just, you can admire God's wonderful creation there that He's so graciously supplied us with. And so when you finally make it to the far side of this property, let me tell you, this is what you're going to find. When you come over there, you're going to come across this really nice pavilion. It's really great. And if it's a hot day and you need to get out of the sun, boom, there you go, right there. And this pavilion, it is wrapped on 3 sides with more wooden benches for seating. And it's great. And the further you go, the just more you see. It's wonderful. And somewhere between the 2nd mile marker and the 3rd mile marker is a beautiful spillway for the lake, and the kids love to stop and to just see that. So listen, if you're tired of just being cooped up and you need a little adventure to help beat back that social distancing blues that we're all suffering from, this is definitely a great option for your consideration. This is a great place, and it is good for social distancing because for the most part you're going to be all alone in the woods. It's great. Or if you're fishing, you can walk off to yourself, or if you got a kayak or a small boat or something like that, paddle boat, you could put it in. And on a trail, we may have passed, I say, 2 or 3 couples, 3 tops, and so it was very socially distant, so that's good. But all of this goes to prove that as fun as they are, and they are fun, as fun as they are, we don't have to pack in a car and drive, 6, 8 plus hours in order to just have this great adventure with your family. You don't. You really don't. All we have to do is open our eyes to some of the small details that God has blessed us with right here around us. Because honestly, the small details matters, folks. Small details matters. Listen, the fact of the matter is this. Too many people nowadays, they miss the small details in life. We miss all sorts of small details in life. But when we look at life through the lens of how God sees things, we start to understand that the small stuff, it really matters. It really does. And it matters in a just ginormous way. Let me share with you one of my favorite portions of the Bible. Okay? Can I share that with you? I love this passage. It's found in Isaiah chapter 6. I love Isaiah chapter 6. I love to preach Isaiah chapter 6. I love to teach Isaiah chapter 6. This is amazing chapter that gives us this description of who God is. And if we had this vision where we could take a glimpse of God in heaven, what he would be like. Let me read some of this for you. In the year that King Uzziah died, King Uzziah was a great king here. And if you lived in his reign, you lived a pretty good life. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne. Now, the first thing to pay attention to is the year that a great king dies, what happens? Panic sets about, right? Fear sets about, because you've had it good for so long. Now what's going to happen now that great leadership has departed? And so what happens, right? So fear sets in. But what Isaiah is telling us right here, right off the bat, is in a year that it didn't seem good at all, guess what? God's still on the throne. Boom. God still wins. God's still in control, right? He says that I see him sitting on the throne. He's high and he's lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Now, what does that mean? I want you to think about royalty and the train that comes off the robe, the tail that comes off. I want you to think about a wedding and a bride who's wearing this just magnificent dress with this long veil and train that runs down the back side of it. This train, however, is God's, and it's so large that it fills the entire temple, the entire building that Isaiah is seeing him in. It is filled with the glory of his train. Verse 2, above him stood seraphim. These are angelic-like creatures of some sort, and each of them has 6 wings, and with 2 wings he covered his face. Now, don't overpass that. Now, let's think about this. Now, this creature, this seraphim, is what I believe to be, is the most holiest creature in creation. And I know that sounds wild, but when you think about it, when you look at its proximity to the throne of God there, it is the closest thing to God. And so therefore, it kind of leaves you with this feeling, well, man, that's one holy creature. But still yet, as holy as this creature may be, it's still a creature and not a creator. It's not God. It's another being, okay? It's just a being. It has a maker, okay? And as sinless as this thing is, still yet, it covers its face in the presence of a holy God. It cannot just look God in the eye there. He's covering his face. And so with other wings, with two, he covered his feet, Isaiah says, and with two he flew, verse 3. And one called to another, and this is what he said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Now, if I asked you to describe God in one word, most people would describe God as love, right? And God is love. The Bible says that God is love. God is a loving God. But nowhere in the Bible does it say that God is love, 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 right? But what it does say is that God is holy, holy, holy to the third power. God is holy, holy, holy. And if I was to describe God in one single word, I think it would be proper to say that God is holy. Now that means that God is totally separate from any other being, any other thing in existence, right? Like you and I, we have the ability to point to someone else and say, I'm like them. I'm like so-and-so, or I like to do these things and we're kind of similar. We kind of look alike and all these things. God doesn't have anybody. That's why he told Moses, when Moses asked his name, what do I say your name is? He said, listen, Moses, I am that I am, okay? There's nothing else to compare himself to. He is holy, 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 okay? And Isaiah says the whole earth is full of his glory. The whole earth reveals his glory. The whole earth is just slam full of his glory. When we go to the mountains, we get on those trails, you know what we see? The glory of God. When we go to the ocean, you know what we see? The glory of God, okay? But also in these small things that matter, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up in the big glorious things being like giant mountains and gorgeous oceans and beautiful beaches that I'm so wanting to get back to right now. But we forget so many times that every time that God faithfully raises the sun in the morning, that is God's glory. And every breath that comes out of my lungs, that's God's glory. All of this is God's mighty work. And so God has created all and he sustains all. The whole earth is filled with his glory. And listen to this, the foundations of the threshold shook, this is verse 4, at his voice. Okay, so everything's trembling at the voice of him who called. And the house was filled with smoke. Now listen, I just described to you a big God. I mean a big God, right? That's a big God, okay? It reminds me of the time when Micah was a little boy, my son. He was somewhere between 2 and 3 years old. I went outside to take the trash out one night. Micah went with me. We put the trash in the trash can. As we were walking back, Micah said, Daddy, what is that? I looked to see the kid is pointing up to the moon, right? Full moon, beautiful moon. And I told him, son, that's the moon. And those little stars around it, okay? Well, it hit me. If the kid was old enough to look at creation, then he was old enough to be told about his creator. And so I said, Micah, do you know who made that moon? And he said, who? And I said, well, God made that moon. And God made that star, and God made that star, and God made that star. And everything that you see is a product of God's creation here. Do you know what my son said? 2 or 3 years old. This is what he said. He says, Daddy, God big. Yeah, God is big. And that is the point exactly. But listen to this. I want to read you these 2 other small passages real quick. Now remember, God's big. He's huge, right? And that's a big deal. But listen to this. As big as God is, listen. Luke 12, verse 6 through 7. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Jesus asked. And not one of them is forgotten by God. So as big as God is, and as cheap as a sparrow is sold for, there is not one on the planet that God forgets about. And it says not one of them is forgotten before God. And it makes me think, well, I don't think there's ever been a sparrow in existence that God has forgotten about. I mean, like he understands all of their numbers. And then Jesus goes on and he says this, why even the hairs of your head are numbered. If a hair falls out, God knows the new number. Don't think he has to sit there and recalculate it. God has all that. And then he says, fear not, for you are more valuable than a sparrow. Wow. Listen to this one. This is in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 4. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Now, this is what I'm trying to say. That the same God who created the cosmos and who moment by moment sustains the cosmos is the same God who cares enough for you and I that he will wipe away every single tear. Wow. Wow. Now listen. This is what the world tells us. The world tells us, don't sweat the small stuff, right? You've probably been told that in your life. Don't sweat the small stuff. But listen, this big, humongous, ginormous God who created all that has existence, right? He takes the time to know the very number of hair upon your head, upon my head. And in other words, what I'm trying to say is the small details, they matter to him. They matter to your God. They matter to him. And we should have a strong faith for those who have turned from the world and have turned to Christ, that if it matters to you in your life, then it must matter to God. It must. It must. If it matters to you, it matters to him. So no matter what your battle is today, no matter how great that mountain may seem, here's the truth. It's still not big as the God whose train fills the temple. And whose very presence caused the threshold of the universe to just tremble, or who causes smoke to fill the places that just fail to ever be able, they fail so miserably to be able to just contain his magnificent glory. Wow. Beloved, this God, is he the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Yes. Yes, he is. But listen, he's not just the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Beloved, he is your God. He's your God. And beloved, here's what I want you to take from this. That this God who's so magnificent and so big, yet cares enough to know every detail of your life, and who's willing to wipe away every tear, and who knows the number of hair. Trust him. Whatever that mountain in your life looks like, trust him with the details of your life, even the small details. Blessings. Love you.